Welcome back to the Road Trip, Road Trippers. Akeem and Akatim, brothers and sisters, kingdom builders, mothers, fathers, aunties and uncles, grandmas and grandpas. Hallelujah, man. Everybody in the house, shalom, shalom, peace and blessings to each and every single one of you, your homes, your dwelling, your children, right? Loved ones, friends, and pets, man. Those little fur babies. That's right. All praises to the Most High, Abba Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, right? Glory to Yahweh Shai. Honors to the Ruach HaKodesh. My love and my respect goes out to each and every single one of you, kingdom builders. That's right, road trippers. That's right. All right, man. All praises to the Most High. You know it. So we're back here in the book, man. We're in the scrolls, man. We're in these scrolls. Second Maccabees, chapter 12. That's where we're starting at. All right. I'm going to punch through that. It's a page and a half. Let's see, 13. All right, cool, man. All right, shouldn't be too crazy. All right, no further ado. We're going to start on chapter 12 and see how far we can go from there. If it makes sense, we'll get some more. You know what I mean? All right, remember, there's only 15 chapters going on here, so we're getting near the end of the door here. We got to make it make sense. So no further ado, man. If you want to get your scrolls out, follow along with me. Right now is a perfect opportunity to do that. You know, if not, no worries, man. I'm not tripping, just road tripping. All right, here we go, man. Second Maccabees, chapter 12. Let's get some, man. Let's begin. All right, family. All right, cool, man. Chapter 12, and it reads, So when these covenants had been made, Lysias departed to the king, and the Yahudim went about their husbandry. But certain of the governors of districts, Timotheus and Apollonius, the son of Genneas, and Hieronymus also, and Demophon, and beside him Nicanor, the governor of Cyprus, would not suffer them to enjoy tranquility and live in peace. And men of Joppa perpetuated this great impiety. They invited the Yahudim that lived among them to go with their wives and children into the boats which they had provided, as though they had no ill will toward them. And when the Yahudim, relying on the common decree of the city, accepted the invitation, as men desiring to live in peace and suspecting nothing, they took them out to sea and drowned them in number not less than 200. But when Judas heard of the cruelty done to his fellow countrymen, giving command to the men that were with him, and calling upon Yahweh, the righteous judge, he came against the murderers of his kindred, and set the haven on fire by night. and burned the boats, and put to the sword those that had fled there. But when the town had closed against him, he withdrew, intending to come again to root out the whole community of the men of Joppa. But learning that the men of Jamnia were inclined to do in like manner to the Yahudim that sojourned among them, he fell upon the Jamnites also by night, and set fire to the haven together with the fleet, so that the glare of the light was seen in Jerusalem 240 furlongs distance. Now, when they had drawn off 9 furlongs from there, as they marched against Timotheus, an army of Arabians attacked him, no fewer than 5,000 footmen and 500 horsemen. And when a sore battle had been fought, and Judas and his company, by the help of Yahweh, had good success, the nomads, being overcome, implored Judas to grant them friendship, promising to give him cattle and to help his people in all other ways. So Judas, thinking that they would indeed be profitable in many things, agreed to live in peace with them. And receiving pledges of friendship, they departed to their tents. And he also fell upon a certain city, Jipharun, strong and fenced about with walls, and inhabited by a mixed multitude of various nations, and it was named Caspine. But those who were within, trusting to the strength of the walls and to their store of provisions, behaved themselves rudely towards Judas and those who were with him, railing the furthermore, blaspheming and speaking impious words. 15. But Judas and his company, calling upon the great sovereign of the world, who without rams and cunning engines of war hurled down Jericho in the times of Joshua, rushed wildly against the wall, and having taken the city by the will of the Most High, Yahweh, they made unspeakable slaughter, insomuch that the adjoining lake that was 2 furlongs broad appeared to be filled with a deluge of blood. And when they had drawn off 750 furlongs from there, they made their way to Charax, to the Yahudim that are called Tubainai, and Timotheus they found not in occupation of that district, for he had then departed from the district without accomplishing anything, but had left behind a garrison, and that a very strong one, in a certain post. But Dosathias and Sosapater, who were of Maccabees captains, went out and destroyed those that had been left by Timotheus in the stronghold, above 10,000 men. And Maccabees, ranging his own army by bands, set these 2 over the bands, and marched in haste against Timotheus, who had with him 120,000 footmen and 2,500 horsemen. But when Timotheus heard of the inroad of Judas, he at once sent away the women and the children, and also the baggage, into the fortress called Carneon, for the place was hard to besiege, and difficult to access by reason of the narrowness of the approaches on all sides. But when the band of Judas, who led the van, appeared in sight, and when terror came upon the enemy in fear, because of the manifestation of him who sees all things came upon them, they fled in amain, carried this way and that, so that they were often hurt with their own men, and pierced with the points of their own swords. And Judas continued the pursuit the more hotly, putting the wicked wretches to the sword. And he destroyed as many as 30,000 men. 30,000 men, right? But Timotheus himself, falling in with the company of Dosithius and Sosapater, implored with him much crafty guile to let him go with his life, because he had in his power the parents of many of them, and the kindred of some. Otherwise, he said, little regard will be shown to these. So when he had with many words confirmed the agreement to restore them without hurt, they let him go, that they might save their kindred. And Judas, marching against Carneon and the temple of Atergatis, killed 25,000 persons. And after he had put those to flight and destroyed them, he marched against Ephron, also a strong city, wherein were multitudes of people of all nations, and stalwart young men placed on all the walls made a vigorous defense, and they were great stores of engines and darts there. But calling upon the sovereign, who with might breaks and pieces and strength of the enemy, they got the city into their hands, and killed as many as 25,000 of those who were within. And setting out from there, they marched in haste against Scythopolis, which is distant from Jerusalem 600 furlongs. But when the Yahudim that were settled there testified of the good will that the Scephalopolitans had shown toward them, and of their kindly bearing toward them in the times of their misfortune. They gave thanks and further exhorted them to remain well affected towards the race for the future. And they went up to Jerusalem, the Feast of Weeks being close to hand. But after the feast called Pentecost, they marched in the haste against Gorgias, the governor of Idumea, and he came out with 3,000 footmen and 400 horsemen. And when they had set themselves in array, it came to pass that a few of the Yahudim fell, and a certain Dosathias, one of Bechanor's company, who was on horseback and a strong man, pressed hard on Gorgias, and taking hold of his cloak, drew him along by main force. And while he was inclined to take the accursed man alive, one of the Thracian horsemen bore down upon him and disabled his shoulder, and so Gorgias escaped to Marsa. And when those who were with Esdras had been fighting long and were wearied out, Judas called upon the Most High to show himself fighting on their side and leading the van of the battle. And then, in the language of his fathers, he raised the battle cry, joined with hymns, and rushing unawares upon the troops of Gorgias, put them to flight. And Judas, gathering his army, came to the city of Adullam. And as the 7th day was coming on, they purified themselves according to their custom, and kept the Shabbat there. And on the day following, at which time it had become necessary, Judas and his company came to take up the bodies of those who had fallen, and in company with their kinsmen, to bring them back to the sepulchres of their fathers. But under the garments of each one of the dead they found consecrated signs of idols of Jamnia, which the law forbids the Jews to have anything to do with, the Yahudim to have anything to do with. And it became clear to all that it was for this cause that they had fallen. And altogether, blessing the works of the Most High, the righteous judge, who makes manifest the things that are hid. See, these guys went to war with idols and Greek little, battle charms and stuff like that, talismans and stuff like that under their cloaks. So because of that, they died. They didn't know until they went back to collect their bodies to take them to the sepulchres of their fathers, and found out that these men were idolaters. No reason why they died. No wonder. 41. All therefore, blessing the works of the Most High, the righteous judge, who makes manifest the things that are hid, behold themselves to supplication, imploring that the sin committed might be wholly blotted out. And the noble Judas exhorted the multitude to keep themselves from sin, for so much as they had seen before their eyes what things had come to pass because of the sin of those who had fallen. And when he had made a collection man by man to the sum of 2,000 drachmas of silver, he sent to Jerusalem to offer a sacrifice for sin, doing therein right well and honorably, and that he took thought for a resurrection. For if he were not expecting that those who had fallen would rise again, it was superfluous and idle to pray for the dead. And if he did, it looking to the honorable memorial of gratitude laid up for those who die in godliness, Kodesh and godliness, was the thought. For that reason, he made the atoning sacrifice for those who had died, that they might be released from their sin. That's the end of chapter 12. All right, cool. Hey, check this out, family. We're going to go ahead and knock out 13 as well. That way, when we come back in 2nd Maccabees, all we have to do is 14 and 15, and then we'll close up 2nd Maccabees and go right into Esdras, okay? The book of Esdras. Yep, 1st Esdras, okay? So let's go ahead and get 13 now, and then we'll come back for the last two. Hallelujah? Hallelujah. All right, let's begin. Chapter 13, and it reads, In the 140th and 9th year, tidings were brought to Judas and his company that Antiochus Eupator was coming with great multitudes against Judea, and with him Lysias his guardian and chancellor, each having a Greek force, 110,000 footmen, 5,300 horsemen, and 22 elephants, and 300 chariots armed with scythes. And Menelaus also joined himself with them, and with great dissimulation encouraged Antiochus, not for the saving of his country, but because he thought that he would be set over the government. But the king of kings stirred up the passion of Antiochus against the wicked wretch. And when Lysias informed him that this man was the cause of all the evils, the king commanded to bring him to Beoria, and to put him to death after the manner of that place. Now there is in that place a tower of 50 cubits high, full of ashes, and in had all round at a gallery descending sheer on every side into the ashes. Hear him that is guilty of sacrilege, or has attained a preeminence in any other evil deeds. They are pushed forward into destruction. By such a fate, it befell the breaker of the law, Menelaus, to die without obtaining so much as a grave in the earth, and that right justly. For since he had perpetrated many sins against the altar, whose fire and whose ashes were Kodesh, in ashes did he receive his death. Now the king, infuriated in Ruach, was coming with intent to inflict on the Yahudim the very worst of the sufferings that had befallen them in his father's time. But when Judas heard of these things, he gave charge to the multitude to call upon the Most High day and night, imploring him, if ever at any other time, so now to help those who were at the point to be deprived of the law and their country in the Kodesh temple, and not to suffer the people that had been but now a little while revived to fall into the hands of those profane heathen. So when they had all done the same thing together, imploring the merciful Elohim with weeping and fasting and prostration for 3 days without ceasing, Judas exhorted them and commanded them they should join him for service. And having gone apart with his elders, he resolved that, before the king's army should enter into Judea and make themselves masters of the city, they should go out and try the matter and fight by the help of Yahweh, and committing the decision to the Most High of the world, and exhorting those who were with him, and to contend nobly, even to death for laws, temple, city, country, commonwealth, he pitched his tent by Modin, and given out to his men the watchword, "Victory is Yahweh's." With a chosen body of the bravest young men, he fell upon the camp by night, and penetrated to the king's tent, and killed of the army as many as 2,000 men, and brought down the mightiest elephant with him that was in the tower upon him. Man, he's killing beasts. 16. And at last they filled the army with terror and alarm, and departed with good success. And this had been accomplished when the day was but now dawning, because of the Most High's protection that gave Judas help. But the king, having had a taste of the exceeding boldness of the Yahudim, made attempts by stratagem upon their positions, and upon a strong fortress of the Yahudim at Bethsura. He advanced, was turned back, failed, and was defeated. And Judas conveyed such things as were necessary to those who were within. But Rhodocus, from the Jewish, the Hebrew ranks made known, the Israelite ranks made known to the enemy the secrets of his countrymen. He was sought out and taken and shut up in prison. The king treated them in Basura the second time, gave his hand, took theirs, departed, attacked the forces of Judas, was put to the worst. Heard that Philip, who had been left as chancellor at Antioch, had become reckless, was confounded, made to the Yahudim an overture of peace. Submitted himself and swore to acknowledge all their rights, came to terms with them and offered sacrifice, honored the sanctuary and the place, showed kindness and graciously received Maccabees, left Hegemonides, governor of Ptolemais, even to the Garanians came to Ptolemais. The men of Ptolemais were displeased at the treaty, for they had exceedingly great indignation against the Yahudim. They desired to annul the articles of the agreement. Lysias came forward to speak, made the best defense that was possible, persuaded, pacified, made them well affected, departed to Antioch. This was the issue of the inroad and departure of the king. And that's the end of chapter 13. So when we come back, we only got 2 more to go, 14 and 15. Hallelujah. That's right, family. All right. Akim and Akatim, brothers and sisters, man. We're about to finish this up. All right. So give me about another hour and a half, and we're about to close up another book. Put one on the belt, man. We're going to throw this one up on the board on the next one. You hear me? That's right. Hallelujah, man. I'll see y'all real soon, man. All praise to the Most High. I love y'all. Yeah. See you soon. Yep. All right.